All right, another module of basketball official training here. We'll be going over different types of fouls, some special types of fouls, such as intentional and technical fouls. So intentional foul is fouling another player without going for the ball. So it's just like it sounds, they're intentionally grabbing, pulling, hitting somebody on the arm or the back. And what we need to make sure we don't confuse this with is fouling at the end of a game. So a lot of time at the end of a close game, teams will foul intentionally, but not an intentional foul. Kind of weird play on words there, but so they'll foul somebody in order to stop the clock or in order to put the other team to the free throw line. And they're doing that because they want to get the ball back so they can try and score. It's usually the losing team that fouls that way. An intentional foul in this case is something a little bit different. So it's essentially a non-basketball play. There's no point to fouling except for to harm or to foul the other player. So when this happens, we'll give that signal we learned about earlier, where it's an X above your head. And the offended team, so the team who just got fouled, will shoot 2 free throws, and they will also get the ball at the point of the foul. So wherever they're fouled, they'll get the ball out of bounds, but they'll get 2 free throws first. There'll be no rebounds on the free throws. No matter the result of the free throws, the team will retain possession of the ball. So it's essentially heavily punishing the team that intentionally fouled. A technical foul, so this can be given for to a player for action that is conduct related. So it can be something like an intentional foul, such as any sort of fighting or intensive pushing, but it can also be given for things such as swearing, dissent towards an official, so talking down on an official. Taunting is another one, inappropriate gestures, and the same thing will happen. 2 free throws to the offended team, and they'll also get the ball as well. Different types of fouls. So players that are in the act of shooting, if they are fouled, if the basket is missed, they'll either be given 2 or 3 free throws. If they're inside the 3-point line when they're fouled while shooting, they'll get 2 free throws. If they are shooting a 3-pointer and they get fouled, they'll shoot 3 free throws. However, no matter where they are on the court, if the basket goes in, we're going to count the basket. They'll get the points for that, either 2 or 3, and then they'll get 1 additional free throw. So that is just shooting fouls. And then what we call a bonus is a 5th foul during any quarter if a team has 5 team fouls, which our scorekeepers will be keeping track of that. Once they reach that 5th team foul, regardless if it's a shooting foul, they will get 2 free throws. They won't retain possession like an intentional technical foul. It'll just be like regular shooting fouls. So they'll get 2 free throws, and then the result of the rebound, or if it goes in. If it goes in, it'll go to the other team. If it misses, and touches the rim, then we're going to go ahead and let that rebound play out. And that's where, at the end of games, teams will foul intentionally in order to put the other team to the free throw line and hoping that they miss it, and then they can try and score and get back into the game. So technical and intentional free throws, we went over that. Player and team control fouls. So these are things such as a charge or an illegal screen. Typically, it's on the offense. So when the offense commits a foul, no free throws will ever be given. So even if they're in the bonus, we still will not give free throws on player and team control fouls, such as charges or illegal screens. It'll simply just be a turnover, and the team will get an inbound in that case. And that's the same as if a team was inbounding the ball fouls, so that'll be like an illegal screen as well. When you're calling fouls, you want to make sure you see the whole play entirely. So you want to see the start of the play. You want to anticipate, not assume. Those are pretty different. So you want to anticipate fouls. So if you see somebody going to the hoop, try and anticipate that there might be a foul. Don't assume that there will be. Because if you assume, what's going to happen is you're going to put a whistle on a play eventually where there isn't a foul, and we don't want to do that. So when you do that, you want to have proper mechanics. You want to blow the whistle, simultaneously put that fist up in the air, and on shooting fouls, you're going to want to pay attention to if the basket goes in or not. If the basket does go in, then you can go ahead on that foul and then put your fist down towards the ground, and that's going to let everybody know that the basket counts. And in that case, basket counts, and we're going to shoot 1 free throw. The only time you'll ever point towards a player is if there are multiple players within the same area of the foul. So they're going to the hoop, there's multiple defenders. You call a foul, and then you're going to point to who the foul is on. And you're going to do that so there's no confusion as to which player is fouled. It may be important because one player may be close to the limit or something like that. When a whistle blows and a foul is called, all the officials need to freeze and observe what happens. So while the official who called the foul is going to go over to the scorer's table to report the foul, the other two need to continue officiating the game. So the two non-calling officials will be observing the game and making sure that, one, no further fouls happen, and then to also prevent the play from going on furthermore. So if a team fouls and then they try and go and score a basket, they may not hear the whistle. So if you do, go ahead and you can just blow your whistle repeatedly to let everybody know that the play has stopped. You can also, the non-calling official can help out with who the shooter is. So you see a shooting foul, get a number or get an eye on who shot the ball so that we have the correct person going to the free throw line. When we go over to report a foul, so the official who calls the foul will need to go over to the scores table and report what foul they had. So the first thing that you need to do is tell if it's a shooting foul and the basket went in, let the scores table know we're going to count the basket. That'll be the first thing you say. And then the rest goes in this order. You give the color of the team who fouled, the number of the player who fouled, and then you're going to do the mechanic of the foul. So if it's a hit, you'll do the hit signal. If it's a hold, you'll do the holding signal, etc. And that's going to let the scorekeeper know who the foul is on. They're going to keep track of if that player has 5 fouls and needs to come out of the game. It'll also keep track of technical fouls. So if you're going to go over and give a technical foul, you're going to give that sign. And then the last thing that you report is what's going to happen next. So let's say, for an example, a player on red goes to the basket, is fouled by a player on green. So green 35 commits a foul. We'll go over, we'll say basket counts, green 35, you can do numbers with your hands, hit, and then we're going to say shooting 1. And then the other officials are going to go ahead and they can help to administer the free throw. And they also will be, again, keeping that box to keep all the players inside of the box. You never want to go through the pack of players. You're going to want to move around the perimeter of them. And that way, all 3 officials keep the players inside and they can officiate the game. The next thing we talk about is handling conflict. So there's naturally going to be conflict, especially in basketball. So try and understand what the player is upset about. If they're not personally attacking you, I think it's okay to leave it alone. So they're going to say things like, that's horrible, and that's fine. However, if they start to attack you or the other players on the opposing team, that's when you need to step in, use your conflict management tools such as a technical foul or an ejection as necessary. And we'll go over that on the next slide. But that's only if they start to use you statements. You are horrible. You can't guard this. You might as well sit on the bench. Something like that. When they start to attack people, that's when there's no place for it in the game. So steps in handling conflict. Quiet word. This works well in basketball. There's always stoppages in place, such as free throws, where you can pull a player who is upset aside and just have a quick conversation. Let them know what you're seeing. Ask them what they're seeing. And it's going to create that rapport that's going to help you officiate and help them play the game. Public warning. This can also be used in basketball. Players complaining a lot. You can let them know in front of everybody that's enough. Captain's meeting. This is the most preventative way to do it, is to talk about these sort of things and how there's no place for them prior to the game starting. Technical foul, we'll look at a couple clips here in a minute to show when to give technical fouls and when not to. And then ejections, you'll do this for if a player has multiple technical fouls, if there's any fighting and stuff like that. What you don't want to do is make threats. So one more word and you're gone is an example of a threat. You don't want to use you statements, just like you don't want them to use you statements. So let them know what you're seeing, draw that line in the concrete, what's going to be acceptable and what's not. Now we're going to watch a couple clips of when technical fouls either were given or should have been given. So you'll see this player in white clapping his hands. This is a taunting gesture. This female official eventually has a word and lets him know to cut it out. However, that was a little bit excessive. I think a technical foul could have been given here. This is another example where I think a technical foul could have been given. The player, I believe it was a player in blue, slaps the ball away, is clearly visibly upset. But the reason why it's a technical foul is they're disrupting game and they're causing a delay of game by slapping the ball away. And there's really no place for it. They're clearly upset with you as the official, and you can go ahead and use your tool in your toolbox and give a technical foul in this case. So there we have a physical altercation between a couple of players. It's hard to tell who exactly did it first, but the important thing is that we need to have a whistle on this. It doesn't necessarily need to be a technical foul, but I think it could be. So make sure you're on top of it. Could be a double foul. That's always another good one. The signal for that is two hands together and push them out. So give a foul to both players, letting them both know that there's no place for that. If it continues, or if one player was really egregious with it, then we can give a technical in that case. Yeah, so what we see there is actually the coach that the technical is on is this in this scenario. Not that we have a ton of coaches, but he's basically berating the official, pointing at him, pointing in his face. Clearly, we can't hear what he's saying, but saying things at the official, and the official lets a free throw go on and then gives a technical foul to him. So we can watch it at the very end. You'll see the coach on the sideline. Yeah, so in a scenario like this, I think it's pretty simple. There's obviously going to be technicals and ejections that take place. And in our game of intramural sports, it's not that serious. Again, it's just a game. And so we will likely end the game at this point. There's no place for fighting or anything like that or brawls in our game, and we will simply not let this happen. So we would go ahead and likely eject multiple players, end this game, and then let your supervisor know, and then let the staff handle it from there. All right, but that'll be the end of this module. Go ahead and take the quiz, and thank you.